Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the podcast. We have an exciting episode to dive into. We've just had Wimbledon, one of the biggest sporting events in the world. I spent 6 days there, and now this week we have the Open Championship. So in this episode, we are going to be diving into everything I got into at Wimbledon, some of the best things about tennis, some of the things maybe golf can learn from tennis or tennis can learn from golf, and of course, diving into the Open Championship and what that means and all of the everything that goes with it. I was at the Open Championship last year, one of the biggest, one of the best, and also, of course, one of the oldest tournaments in the world. So let's dive straight in and start talking about Wimbledon. So this is one of my favorite things I do every year. I go to Wimbledon every year. I don't have tickets, and one of the best things about Wimbledon is the queue. And if you guys aren't aware of this, you don't necessarily need to have tickets in advance to actually go to Wimbledon. They have a queue. You can queue for tickets. Now, in recent years, the queue has gotten quite a bit longer, I have to say. I've been going for the last 3 years. I first went to Wimbledon when I was 10 years old. So that place has a lot of history. I went with my mum. It was one of my favorite memories from my childhood, and it's what inspired me from the age of 10 to the age of 16 to basically play tennis every single day of my life. And that's what I wanted to do when I was younger, is to be a professional tennis player. So that place holds a lot of significance in the effect it had on my life when I was so young. Also, this is a conversation I actually recently had with a friend of mine, is how to get your kids into a certain sport, whether it's a sport you like, whether it's a sport you think they would be good at, and help them enjoy that. I said to this friend, for me, I would take them to a professional version of that sport. Take them to Wimbledon if it's tennis, or the US Open, or the Australian Open, or Roland Garros. Take them to the Open Championship if it's golf. Take them to a football game if it's football that you want to get them into. Whatever it is, take them to a high level of that sport being played. Show them what you can achieve in that sport if you really set your mind to it, the kind of lifestyle maybe you can have. And also, I think it's so great to see, for them to see you enjoying that sport too. If you enjoy football, if you enjoy tennis, if you enjoy golf, to actually do those things together, to see the passion you might have from watching it and enjoying it, and pick that up with your children together so you can, build that bond and they will want to do it more. I think another big impact is their friends, what sports their friends play is very, very important. I might do a full episode actually, if you guys would be interested, on how to what the right ways are for parenting in certain sports. I think there's no one right way, but there's definitely a few wrong ways. I've been around a lot of golf coaches and seen a lot of not great parenting, or parenting in the wrong way, I would say, when it comes to being a bit too pushy sometimes to get your kids into a certain sport. It is not something you can live your dreams through, unfortunately. But we'll save a little bit more of that for another episode with some stories there. So let's dive back to Wimbledon. So in recent years, the queue has gotten quite a lot busier. 3 years ago, I turned up the night before, 7 p.m., and I was number 222, I believe, in the queue for the following day. Now, a little bit more about the queue at Wimbledon is every single day up until the quarterfinals, they have 500 center court, 500 court 1, and 500 court 2 tickets. So if you are in the top 500 people, you know that you will have the chance, the option to go and watch center court the next day and to purchase a center court ticket. The price of those escalates through the tournament. It starts just over £100. It gets up to about £220 for the last day. That is pretty cheap, really, for a center court ticket. If you were to pay for a center court ticket, you would be talking, for something half decent, you would be talking in the thousands of pounds, especially as the tournament goes on into the final stages. So 3 years ago, I was number 200, turning up at 7 p.m. The last 2 years, I have got there at 10 a.m. the day before, and again, I was number 200 in the queue, turning up 10 a.m. So that is 9 hours earlier. Also, so what I did this year is basically I camped for 6 days. So I would camp on alternate days and then go into Wimbledon and onto centre court on, every second day. So I turned up on the Thursday, camped all day Thursday for Friday tickets, all day Saturday for Sunday tickets, all day Monday for Tuesday tickets, and that was my last day. I went home Monday night. I absolutely love the camping. You basically turn up, put your tent in the queue, you get given a queue card, and that is more or less it. You just hang out. It's pretty comfortable. Luckily, the weather was mostly pretty good. Had a few spots of rain at certain points, but it was pretty fine for the most part. The only small negative thing about the queue is it is a lot of early mornings. I believe I was up at about 4:30 every morning. Didn't get a lot of sleep. It's a little bit hard to sleep there. You can make it comfortable. You can put an eye mask on. You can make it dark. It's difficult for me, more so with the noise. You have some people not being overly loud, but just kind of talking, drinking, and whatever, and everyone's pretty close by. So, the noise is there. I kind of put some headphones on, tried to zone out a bit. I have to say, as I got more tired, the more time I spent there, the better I slept, definitely. You guys might also be thinking, well, what did I do for showering? Well, luckily, there's a few gyms nearby, so I just joined a local gym. I went there, I worked out every day, I showered, and that was all fine. No issues whatsoever. So the first day, queued all day on the Thursday, woke up very early on the Friday, centre court tickets. One of the best things about the queue as well, and I absolutely love this about Wimbledon, they save some of the best tickets for the people in the queue. Now that is absolutely incredible. For the real fans who have put the time, the effort to camp, to queue in, they actually save some of the best tickets for. So every day I was 4 or 5 rows back from the front of centre court, and that is an absolutely incredible experience to see that level of tennis played so close up. I took my camera with me, and on the first day I had a pretty action-packed day. I watched Taylor Fritz against Davidovich Fokina. I watched Alcaraz play against Struff, and I watched Raducanu play against Sabalenka, and that was a pretty incredible day of tennis. It was about 17 hours long from kind of the moment I woke up to the moment I left Wimbledon. So it was a very, very long day, very tiring, but the atmosphere was unbelievable, especially for Emma Raducanu. The support she gets is incredible. The support most kind of English UK GB people get is pretty incredible on centre court. She was so close to playing against, to beating Sabalenka. Very, very easily could have won that match. It was a massive shame she didn't, but an absolutely incredible day. I took my camera with me, so I was taking a lot of photographs, a lot of video. If you guys want to see some of the best stuff, I actually uploaded it to my Instagram, so you can see some of my favorite photos I took. I have to say, there's some banging stuff in there. I absolutely love tennis. It was so nice to be shooting tennis instead of golf, just as a change of pace, change of scenery. And I uploaded a few videos on there, a little vlog style video of my day, everything I got up to, and then also kind of more of a high cinematic B-roll type video, which I think turned out really nicely. So yeah, that was really fun. I was just on my own for the first 2 days. It was so nice. Like, one of the things I didn't realize about being on your own, I've kind of traveled on my own a little bit, but mostly for work. So I've kind of been around work colleagues and things. But one of the really nice things about traveling on your own, especially in an environment like that where everyone's having such a good time, everyone's in a great mood. Is just you get talking to so many people, you just meet so many people, everyone's so friendly. I met people from the US, from the UK, from South Africa, from Bulgaria, loads of people from all around who had all come together to camp, to queue, to watch Wimbledon, and we're all super excited. So then Friday night after Wimbledon ended on centre court with the Raducanu match, I went back and put my tent in the queue for the following day. I believe I got back into the queue around 10:30 or 11 p.m. I was number 3,000 in the queue for the following day. So there were 3,000 people ahead of me queuing effectively for the Saturday. I was queuing for the Sunday. So how that basically works is on Saturday morning, you wake up very early with everyone, but they kind of, anyone queuing for Sunday, they take you off to the side. They take you basically out of Saturday's queue. And once Saturday's queue has kind of moved down, gone in, they basically rearrange you into the correct order for the following day, for Sunday. And then later that day, they come out and hand out the cue cards for the following day. I absolutely love it. I just am so addicted to it. So I basically camped. I went to the gym in the morning, went for a shower, picked up some food, back at my tent, hung out, did some work. It was just such a nice atmosphere. I got some more sleep, thankfully. And then Sunday, back into centre court as well. I saw Sonne Cartel, who was a young British female player, play. That was great. Saw Sabalenka versus Mertens was a great match, and Alcaraz Rublev, the final match, was absolutely incredible. You watch the women play tennis up close and you are just like, it cannot get any better. They hit the ball so hard. It is so impressive. And then you watch the men play, and I'm a massive advocate of women's sports, women's tennis, but it is another level watching the men play. It is quite unbelievable sometimes, the pace, the athleticism, how hard they hit the ball. It is ridiculous. If you have never watched any level of professional tennis close up, I would highly recommend. Even it doesn't even need to be the best players in the world. Just watch, go to whatever is local to you, whatever you can get to. I would love to go and watch the US Open one day, go watch Roland Garros or the Australian Open. I've heard amazing things. Wimbledon is basically the only tournament I've pretty much ever been to. I think I went to Queen's maybe once when I was younger. But so I had some incredible matches on the Sunday. Again, went back the Sunday night to put my tent in the queue. It was a little bit earlier. I think it was around 9:30 p.m. And I was number 1,500 for the queue for Monday. But again, remember, I'm queuing for Tuesday. So 1,500 in the queue. So you can see as well how much busier the weekend was. They said it's the busiest queue they've ever had. I think there was some content put out across like TikTok and Instagram that went viral that kind of educated people on how to queue for Wimbledon, made more people aware of it. Because I think, maybe listening to this, you might not be aware of what it's like, how you do it, who can do it. Pretty much anyone can do it. That shows how much quieter the queue was for the Monday, for a weekday, than it was at the weekend. I was basically 1,500 compared to 3,000. I was literally half the amount of people ahead of me. Again, pretty relaxed day Monday. Went to the gym, picked up some sushi, hung out, met some people, had really nice conversations with some other people. So that was absolutely lovely. And then back in on Tuesday and got to watch Alcaraz versus Norrie and Sabalenka versus, I believe it's Vimisamova, the girl who ended up making it to the final. That was great. Alcaraz versus Norrie was a little bit disappointing. Alcaraz played so well; it was so impressive. Sabalenka, or sorry, Sabalenka won that match, but lost the next match to in the semis to the girl who made it through to the final. Kind of Sabalenka looked like she got worse throughout the tournament. Alcaraz looked like he was getting better. Kind of watched both of them 3 days in a row because it was quarterfinals day on Tuesday, the last day that I watched. There was only 2 matches on centre court, which was a little bit of a shame. I kind of wish they put a doubles match in there as well or something on centre court, help bulk it out a little bit and give more people the opportunity to play on there. Would have been good for that day. And then, yeah, it was pretty early home by kind of like 10:30. So not a bad day at all. Absolutely loved it. Picked up some sushi on my drive home. And I just want to touch like Wimbledon as a place, if you haven't been. It is absolutely next level. I think the only place it can be compared to, and I've not even been to this other place, so it's hard for me to judge, is Augusta National. That's the kind of same level that I've heard from people, is basically, Wimbledon is the equivalent. They're very, very similar, very traditional, absolutely incredible. I absolutely loved it. The big difference between Wimbledon and Augusta National is Wimbledon actually lets you bring in a camera, not just your phone too. Augusta National is obviously very, very strict about phones, but they actually do let you bring a camera into Augusta National, which is kind of surprising. I want to look more into the rules of that. I've never really looked at it that in depth because I've never had to. But yeah, I do know that you can bring a camera into Augusta with you, which is quite a cool thing to be able to do. And obviously going to the Masters is something that is very, very, very high on my bucket list, especially after I've worked with a Masters champion in Charles Schwartzel, which was obviously a huge, huge privilege. So Wimbledon as a place, it is beautiful, it is immaculate, everything is absolutely perfect, manicured to perfection. Everyone is in such a good mood. The stewards, everyone working there, for the most part, I would say 99.9% of people working there are so, so friendly. The hospitality is incredible. A lot of the stewards are volunteers, so they are just super, super helpful, super, super friendly. Thank you to all of them if there's anyone listening who did that, because honestly, you guys are the best. And yeah, just an incredible place, great food as well. Kind of not overly expensive. I think you would expect a place like that to be, a little bit, the price is a little bit hyped up maybe, but it's not too bad for the most part. I would say, they've always kept the price of strawberries and cream at about £2.50, which is very, very, very reasonable. Most food items were kind of in the £10 to £15 range, so not too bad at all there. And some really nice quality stuff as well. The merchandise I don't think is too expensive either, unless you're going for some crazy expensive cashmere Ralph Lauren jumper, which there is that option there as well. I actually didn't buy any merchandise this year. I normally spend way too much, so I tried to avoid that as much as possible. So I would like to dive into now what golf can learn from Wimbledon and tennis. The queue is massive. Like, the queue is such an incredible thing, and I wish not just golf did this, but I wish more sporting events did this. It would be absolutely incredible if you could go to the Open Championship or the Masters and you could queue for tickets and camp. That would be incredible. I think that would be such a great dynamic. And actually, I've seen Augusta National has been purchasing a lot of land around it. So maybe in the future you'll be able to do that. I think if Augusta National and the Masters open themselves up to a queue, I would love to see the turnout. Would be ridiculous. I mean, obviously Wimbledon it's about 2 hours for me to get there, so it's not too far to get to Augusta National. I'd have to fly, I'd have to, book a car, accommodation and things like this. But if they open the queue up at Augusta National and the Masters for some tickets, even if it was maybe just for practice days or whatever it was, or just maybe a few thousand per day, I think that would be incredible. I think you would have a huge amount of people queuing, the UK, we're a little bit smaller over here. We haven't got quite as many people, even though this is obviously very, very close to London. So it's very close to a city with 8 million people. You know, the Masters is in a much more remote area. So maybe that would stop them getting big enough crowds, but it's also in America. So you guys have a huge amount more people, and the golf industry over there is massive. So let me know in the comments, would you like to see them create a queue at the Masters or anything like this? The most comparable thing to the queue at Wimbledon is actually at the Open Championship. They do have a campsite that you can book and pay to stay in. If you already have tickets, though, you can't actually go and camp and queue for the tickets. You can only stay in it. I did stay in it years ago, the final day of the Open Championship. I think it was 2018 when I did that. And it was a great atmosphere. Again, they had all the, like, it was a bit different because they had the tent set up for you to stay in, which was great. This is very much a bring your own tent, bring your own equipment situation with the queue at Wimbledon. And then, you know, there's luggage storage. You can put everything into there. But it would be incredible, like, if for the Open Championship, you could go and queue, you could go and put your tent in a queue. It was a great environment to be in. Everyone's in a good mood, everyone's drinking, having a good time. And I liked that actually they had the tent set up was really nice as well. But yeah, I would love to see them actually open that up to the public so you can actually get tickets. I actually put into the ballot for the Open Championship to see what tickets I could get for this year. I basically just got offered practice day tickets, I think it was. So I kind of turned them down or handed them back, or, you know, chose not to purchase them. They weren't that cheap as well. And, you know, luckily enough, I know a lot of professional players. So if I really wanted to go, I probably could through them. But with the Open Championship being quite far away from me this year, I've chosen not to go. I've chosen to be at home instead because it's, you know, in Northern Ireland, and I would have to book a lot of accommodation and take my car over and, you know, worry about my dog and everything. So there's just a lot more factors to consider. Whereas last year, I was there in Scotland, in Troon, working with my players, working with Louis Oosthuizen and Dean Burmester, who were both playing that week. And yeah, it was great to spend some time with them, to be inside the ropes, filming some content was really, really fun, and very, very special memories I will look back on forever. So let's talk about briefly what tennis could learn from golf, because I do think there's quite a few things tennis could learn. One of the things I think Wimbledon could improve upon is their practice courts. The practice courts, they obviously have a lot of them, which is great, but they're not very accessible to the public in the sense of you can't really watch them. They have a very, very small viewing area where you can probably see about 3 or 4 of the practice courts, but honestly, not many. And I don't think that most of the players actually choose to practice on those specific courts. I think they probably practice on the ones you can't see. So there's a very, very small viewing area, probably gets very busy, and you cannot see a lot on. Whereas at the Open or the Masters, whatever, they have huge viewing areas with stands that you can overlook the range and you can go and watch people hit balls. And I think that's just great that you can go and do that. I think that's an area that the Wimbledon especially could improve upon. I've never been to another tennis tournament, so I don't really know what the deal is with practice court viewing areas at other tournaments, but that would definitely be something. And another area that I think tennis could learn from golf, obviously in golf club fitting has become such a massive part of professional golf, amateur golf, everything. I think in tennis, there could be a lot better quality fitting of tennis rackets to do with different string tensions, different strings, different rackets, because if you don't know a huge amount about tennis rackets, it's kind of the same with like golf clubs. Like I would say the club head of the golf club, you could equate to maybe the frame of the tennis racket, but the strings of the tennis racket, the type of strings, the tension is maybe comparable to the shaft in a golf club, where it's just going to make that club play completely differently. So it really can affect it. So I think fitting of tennis rackets could really learn from the fitting of golf clubs. I think also coaching could learn from golf coaching. Obviously, we have all this amazing technology with golf coaching, with launch monitors, with cameras, with all of these things. It's incredible, and all of this technology. But tennis, doesn't have that. Most tennis coaches won't film their students, and I don't really understand why. I think, for me, for example, I'm a very, very visual learner. I love to see what I'm doing, and then I need someone to show me how to do it better, show me how to do it correctly, and help give me that kinesthetic feel in my body to actually make that change. Whereas in tennis, we don't have that. We don't have, would basically, you have someone shouting from 20 yards away from you for the most part, just just do this, just do that. So I think tennis could really learn from that. I think I would love to see launch monitors become a part of, more recreational tennis and tennis coaching. I think that would be incredible as well, if you could actually see the racket path, the spin you're putting on the ball. This technology exists, but it's not been brought into, the lower level coaching. It's probably brought into, higher level, I would imagine. But I think, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Are there any other areas where you think, tennis could learn from golf and golf could learn from tennis as well? Now, the rest of the tournament at Wimbledon, I just want to touch on the final quickly. It was a little bit disappointing, both I think the men's and women's. The women's final was a complete blowout. I wish Sabalenka had made it through to the final against Swiatek. I think it would have been a much better match. It was a bit of a shame, to have such a blowout in the final. It was frustrating, to say the least. But yeah, just disappointing. The men's final, I thought, got off to a really good start. The first set I thought was really great. To see Alcaraz come back from a breakdown to win the first set was incredible. I don't know what happened after that. I spent 3 days watching him play. He was very, very positive all of those 3 days, even when he was down sometimes. And yeah, just got better throughout the days. I don't know what happened after that first set. He almost, even though he won the first set, seemed to take a mental drop and just drop his level and didn't play quite as well and seemed a bit off tactically. So that was, I just thought it was a shame, especially after the French Open final. What an amazing match that was, one of the best in history. Wimbledon final was a little bit disappointing, but yeah, was still an incredible tournament. Let's touch on the Open Championship then quickly. I'd love to hear any thoughts you have on your favorite picks. I just want to run through a few of mine. I think, it's a very interesting Open Championship. It will be very interesting back at Portrush to see how Rory handles it, how Rory handles the pressure of that situation after such a disappointing last Open Championship that they had all those years ago at Portrush, where he missed the cut. Some of my picks, I think you've always got to include Scotty Scheffler. I think if Scotty Scheffler turns up with his, B plus game, I think he wins every day. Every tournament he plays in, basically, he's that consistent. I also think this, the Open Championship and links golf is very, very, very open. I think, we could very easily see a Justin Rose come back, or even someone like a JJ Spawn, who's had an incredible year, who's just won the US Open. I think we could very, very, see him come into it, or someone like him. So I think it's incredibly open. I'm not going to be betting on it this year because I just think it's too unpredictable, but I would absolutely love to hear your thoughts, and it's going to be an incredible week. Make sure you do like this, subscribe, and follow along for more podcasts. I will be bringing you guys another one after the Open Championship, so make sure you stay tuned to that, and I will see you guys in the next one.